of people holding banners and signs. The targeting of black and brown, women, trans people, last May 1st is not only in line with Trump's policies of criminalizations of protests, but surely made President Trump himself feel proud and unstoppable in his escalating hate politics. We hold Mayor DeBlasio accountable for the racist and militarized violence incited by the NYPD on that day. We call for an end to NYPD's racist criminalization of our communities, abusive practices such as broken windows. We call on Police Commissioner James O'Neill to resign and for all charges against all those arrested to be dropped immediately.
On May Day, I marched for dignified work. I recognize that this economy is built on the backs of black and brown bodies, of bodies that never get compensated for the work that they do. On May Day, I marched also for gender equality, recognizing that women still to this day do not get paid as much as men do, and that women and femmes, mostly femmes of color, do a lot of unpaid care work. And that's why when we were marching in the streets and marching for our rights, for workers and for migrants and refugees, and when the police targeted us because we're communities of color, because we are activists, they targeted us very aggressively, pushed us against the car, didn't respect us. And if you look at the people they were arrested, mostly were femmes and queers of color.
Every day, as a queer woman of color, my life is threatened by imperialist patriarchy, homophobia, transphobia, and white supremacy. In fact, getting arrested seems to wrap all that up neatly in a single institution, the NYPD. If this is already my fate, especially now in the era of Trump, then I have to organize, I have to march. To say that if they're going to try to take me, if they're going to try to take my black and brown brothers and sisters, then we are not going down quietly and without a fight.
The racist mayor of this city, Bill DeBlasio, and his racist NYPD are trying to keep people from marching the streets, which they have every legal right to do so. I myself was arrested at another march that was for immigrants' rights. The police tried to intimidate us by arresting us and others while we were crossing the street, while the police were blocking the intersection, giving us clearance to actually cross. They grabbed myself and some others. Not only was I arrested, I was tackled from behind, pinned to the ground, and had my face shoved in the snow. What was the reason the cops said they did this? What was the reason they used such excessive force? Jaywalking. Why did they really do it? To interfere with people's legal right to march.
Throughout the march, the NYPD corralled us, obstructed us from continuing our march, but that did not stop us from making our voices heard and making sure that the immigrant workers who we were supporting, the women we were supporting, the queer and trans folks we were supporting, the communities of color that we were uplifting, had an opportunity to stand for their rights and to make it known that here in New York, this is no sanctuary city. Broken windows policing is also manifested through the policing of our families and children and communities at these protests. Broken windows policing is the symptom, the police state is the disease, and we need to address that full on.
As a young woman with an autoimmune disease, a Muslim, and an Arab-American Palestinian from an immigrant family, I felt it was my duty to participate and be in solidarity with all oppressed groups and workers. Imagine my surprise when out of nowhere, even though we were nowhere near the center of the street or nowhere in a position where I could have possibly posed an obstacle to traffic, I was arrested violently by the NYPD. As I tried to move because my wrist was hurting and explained to the officer that my bracelet was caught underneath the zip tie, he told me not to move another inch or he would tackle my body to the ground, verbatim. I was worried for my safety and the safety of my friends and other people who were marching alongside of me, including plenty of children who were involved in the rally and came out for a family day that was in celebration of their ethnicities and backgrounds.
We should uplift and celebrate that our voice police preparing a defense? For whom are the police enacting violence against peaceful demonstrators? It is certainly not to defend us, and not to defend the most oppressed and exploited. For this reason, we stand together to defend the people's right to resist and condemn the violent reaction of the police to people who use their voices to assert our freedoms. This fight is far from over. We will be releasing several statements in the coming days and building broad support for the defense